Hey guys, tonight we crack open the tale of the thunder that refused to be tamed. The air tastes electric already, doesn't it? You're standing at the edge of Olympus, high above mortal worries, staring at a sky so charged, you're sure even your hair might spark if you lean in too close. There's a wind that smells of rain, but not the kind that's gentle. This is the rain of God Zeus's personal storm in a bottle, shaking so hard it rattles the heavens. You probably won't survive this if you're hoping for a calm bedtime tale. But hey, that's half the fun, right? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and drop a comment with your location and what time it is. It makes me feel like I'm telling the story to each of you right where you are. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge closer to Olympus's gates, ancient pillars older than even the oldest myths, and you see him, Zeus, king of the gods, with a face like a thunderstorm and a temper just as explosive. His robe billows in the updrafts of his own fury, white cloth snapping like a banner of conquest. He is not alone though. There's a retinue of lesser gods scuttling in his wake, each carrying something precious, a lightning bolt, a staff, or a bundle of whispers. And there in the crook of Zeus' elbow is the thunder itself, crackling, coiled, and absolutely refusing to be silent. A historical fact for you to chew on while Zeus adjusts his grip. The ancient Greeks believed that thunder was the literal voice of Zeus booming out over mountains and seas to remind everyone who's in charge. But as you watch him tonight, you can't help but wonder, who's really in charge of the thunder? Zeus might command it, but can he ever truly control it? Historians still argue whether the thunder was seen as a symbol of his power or a reminder of his own vulnerability. The ground beneath your feet trembles, and you realize this is no normal entrance. Zeus is trying to make a statement. His sandals leave sparks with every step, and the sky above is a swirling cloak of black clouds. If you squint, you can almost see shapes in them, faces of titans perhaps, or just your own fear reflected back at you. A fringe tidbit for your dreams tonight. Some poets claim that Zeus' thunderbolts were crafted from the bones of fallen titans, their rage bound forever in each strike. You move closer, and the air thickens until you're breathing soup instead of air. Each inhale tastes like metal, like the bite of a penny on your tongue. The lesser gods around Zeus seem uneasy, shuffling from foot to foot, eyes darting at the thunder, as if it might jump from his arm and choose a new master. Then Zeus stops. He stands in the shadow of a great olive tree, roots burrowed so deep they drink the memory of wars and love stories from the dirt. The leaves shiver, but they don't dare to fall. You can almost feel the tree's ancient spirit sighing. Not again. Not another thunderstorm so close to home. Zeus lifts his hand and the thunder glows brighter, a living thing desperate to be unleashed. You feel it in your bones that ache like a storm coming closer, and for a heartbeat, just one, you swear you see fear flicker across Zeus's face. He tries to hide it, smoothing his features into that familiar godly scowl, but the thunder knows. It always knows. He lowers his hand and the thunder dims, curling in on itself like a cat wary of strangers. Zeus turns away, robes swirling, and you follow your feet unsure on the slippery marble. There's no sound except the slow, rhythmic hiss of the clouds as they rub against each other, hungry for release. You'd think the other gods would keep a respectful distance when Zeus is this wound up. But no, there's Ares. His bronze-clad shoulders hunched in silent laughter, and Athena eyes sharp as owl talons, already plotting how to use this moment to her advantage. Even Apollo, with his too-perfect face, seems just a touch smug, like he's already composing a ballad about Zeus's thunder fiasco. But tonight isn't about them. It's about you and this charged air and the sense that something unstoppable is just around the corner. Because you can almost taste it. The thunder is tired of being held back. You lean in a little closer, careful not to catch Zeus' eye. He's not known for his patience, especially when his thunder is misbehaving. And in that moment you swear the thunder itself hums a tune only you can hear. Remember that the ancient Greeks didn't see thunder as just noise. It was prophecy, a warning, a promise all at once. They believed that thunder could crack open the future spilling secrets like spilled wine. You wonder what secret Zeus is trying to bottle up tonight. A sudden flash. No, not from the thunder itself, but from a torch flaring as a lesser god fumbles with his burden. The moment passes, but it's enough. Zeus' head snaps around, eyes narrowing, and for a split second you're sure he'll unleash the thunder right here, right now. But he doesn't. He just tightens his grip and marches on deeper into Olympus. You follow, because what else can you do? The gates close behind you with a sound like a final breath, and you're swallowed up by the mountain itself. In the distance you hear the first roll of real thunder, not the one Zeus holds, but the one that waits outside, growing louder with every heartbeat. It's a promise and a threat that thunder. And as you watch Zeus's shoulders tense beneath the weight of it, you realize this: no matter how high Olympus stands, no matter how many temples are raised in his honor, Zeus is still just a god trying to hold on to something that refuses to be tamed. The wind picks up again, carrying the scent of ozone and olive leaves. The thunder flickers and you feel its pulse echo in your own chest. You're not just an observer tonight, you're a witness to a secret that might just crack Olympus open like an egg. So take a deep breath, friend. The night is only just beginning, and already the thunder is growing restless in Zeus' arms. You're still trailing behind Zeus, and there's a crackle in the air that no divine silence can smother. The marble halls of Olympus stretch before you, like an endless white wave, smooth cold, echoing with every footfall. If you pause, you can almost hear whispers from the walls, themselves gossip of centuries, snatches of laughter, and the faintest tremor of thunder leaking out from behind Zeus's calm facade. But then there's Hera. Hera, queen of Olympus, goddess of marriage, but tonight she's got the sharpness of a hunting hawk in her gaze. She stands at the head of the grand corridor, and the instant Zeus sees her, you can practically taste the tension in the air like biting down on foil. Hera's robe is a waterfall of peacock feathers shimmering in the torchlight. Her eyes fix on Zeus, and you see it, the unspoken suspicion flickering in their depths. Because she knows him, knows the way he tries to bottle up storms and pretend he can keep every secret even when the thunder in his grip begs for release. You might have heard that ancient Greeks believed peacocks were sacred to Hera. Historians say this was because of their eyes, in the feathers symbols of vigilance, always watching. Tonight those eyes seem to be focused squarely on Zeus' clenched fist, and the thunder barely contained within it. Zeus Hera, says her voice soft but steely. What is it you carry tonight? The question hangs in the hall like a spear aimed right at him, and you poor mortal in this godly court can almost feel sorry for the king of the gods. Almost. He doesn't answer right away. Instead he lifts the thunder just a fraction, as if to show her that he's got it under control. The thunder pulses in response, a low growl that seems to say otherwise. Hera's lips curve in a faint smile, but it doesn't reach her eyes. You can't hide it from me, you know, she says. I've seen what happens when you try. There's an old tale, a fringe tidbit you might not have heard. Some whispered that Hera once stole thunder from Zeus herself, hiding it in a hollowed-out olive branch so cleverly even the fates didn't see. Historians still argue whether that's true or just a scandalous bit of divine gossip. But tonight it's clear she remembers every bolt of lightning he's ever tried to hide from her. Zeus's jaw tightens. It's not yours to worry about, he says. His tone is calm, but you can hear the strain underneath, like a rope pulled too tight, ready to snap. Hera steps closer. The thunder flickers again, brighter this time, as if it senses the queen's resolve. Everything in Olympus is my concern, she says, and her hand brushes his arm light, almost gentle, but there's nothing soft about her stare. You watch as Zeus draws back ever so slightly and you realise he's not used to being challenged. Not by mortals, not by other gods, and certainly not by his wife. But Hera's always been more than just the queen. She's the one who knows every crack in the marble, every secret tucked behind those white columns. Are you really going to pretend this will stay hidden, she asks. The peacock feathers at her shoulders seem to shiver with the same question. For a moment the only sound is the distant hush of wind through the open colonnade. Then far below, thunder growls again, echoing the warning in her words. Zeus glances away, but you catch the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. Because the truth is, he's not sure he can hide this, not from Hera, not from the other gods, and not from the mortals who'll feel the storm in their bones long before they see the lightning. You'd almost pity him if he wasn't the one who keeps insisting the thunder is his alone to command. Hera steps back, her eyes still locked on his. Be careful, she says softly, but you can hear the steel beneath. Even you can't hold back the storm forever. She turns and walks away, her footsteps muffled by the hush of marble. And for a second, Zeus just stands there, still clutching the thunder, still pretending it's all under control. But the thunder's glow is brighter now, and you see it just a flicker jumping at the edges of his hand like a caged animal desperate for release. You trail after him as he starts moving again deeper into Olympus. The hallways twist and turn, and with every step the air grows thicker, warmer, almost as if the thunder itself is turning the halls into a forge. And you can't help but wonder what happens when the Queen of Olympus sees through every lie. What happens when the King of Gods is forced to admit that even he can't quiet the voice of the storm? The answer you suspect is waiting at the end of these twisting halls. The smell of ozone lingers in the air, sharp, almost sweet, and you realise that it's the same smell that mortal priests would call a sign from the heavens. The ancients believed thunder was Zeus' warning, a reminder that even the mightiest mortal king was nothing but dust in the face of the divine. But tonight you see something different, thunder as a secret, thunder as a confession that even gods can't quite keep to themselves. You pass under a carved archway, the marble etched with scenes of Zeus in his many victories slaying titans, ruling the skies, holding thunder like a crown. But here in the hush of these twisting halls you see none of that triumph in his shoulders. Only the weight of the storm he's trying so hard to keep hidden. Remember that even the strongest ruler can be undone by what he tries to bury. And as Zeus pushes open a door at the end of the hall, the thunder flares again, brighter, louder, as if it's laughing at the very idea of being silenced. He steps inside and you follow, because how can you not? In the flickering torchlight you see the thunder's glow paint the walls in dancing shadows, and in Zeus' eyes you see a flicker of fear, just enough to remind you that even kings can't outrun the storm forever. The door closes behind you, and you're left in the hush of a room where secrets are kept and where the thunder is getting louder by the breath. The door clicks shut behind you with a finality that seems to hush even the whispering marble. You stand in a small dark chamber carved into the mountain itself. No grand columns here, no triumphal statues, just damp stone and the flicker of a single oil lamp. The air is heavy, and the scent of olive oil from the lamp mingles with something sharper. Ozone and a faint metallic tang that might be your own nerves. Zeus stands at the centre of the room, thunder clutched close to his chest like a child afraid of the dark. You watch as he scans the walls, his eyes tracing the ancient runes and chipped mosaics that no mortal has seen in centuries. Here in this hidden chamber the past presses close, a place of secrets and old bargains. A historical fact for you to savour. The Greeks believed caves and caverns were gateways to the underworld and to the future. Oracles would descend into them inhaling fumes that clouded their minds and let them speak with gods. But this isn't an oracle's cave, it's a vault for something far more dangerous. Zeus reaches for a hollow in the wall so deep you can't see the bottom. He eases the thunder into it, the light of it casting eerie shadows that dance across his face, and for a moment you almost believe he's succeeded. The thunder dims, sinking into the darkness like a restless spirit finally soothed. A fringe tidbit for tonight's dream, some say this vault was carved by Hephaestus himself, a forge hammer chisel against mountain stone shaped to hold not treasures but threats. Historians still argue whether Hephaestus built it at Zeus' command, or if he built it to keep Zeus himself in check. Zeus steps back, exhaling slowly. His shoulders drop just a fraction, like a man who's put down a burden that's been carving into his bones. But you're not fooled. The thunder may be hidden, but it's not silenced. In the hush of the chamber you can hear it, a low pulsing thrum like a heartbeat echoing through the rock. You take another step closer, and the cool air of the cave brushes your skin, a welcome relief from the heat that clung to Zeus's thunder. The walls here seem to breathe with every flicker of the lamp, the air shifting in and out in slow, patient sighs. Zeus wipes his brow with the back of his hand, sweat shining in the lamplight. He looks older now, lines carved deep around his eyes that have seen empires rise and fall, mortals beg and betray, and still can't quiet the rumble of thunder that refuses to be tamed. He mutters something under his breath, words too soft to catch, but you can guess their flavour. Promises, threats, maybe even a prayer to no god in particular, because tonight even a god might doubt his own power. He turns away and you notice his hand trembling just slightly. A reminder that even the king of the gods has limits, and even his thunder has its own will. You watch as he smooths his robes, the proud king reassembling his mask of command. But the thunder still flickers in the darkness of the vault, and you can't help but think what's locked away is never truly gone. Zeus steps back into the hallway, the echo of his sandals ringing against the marble. He closes the door behind him, and the thrum of the thunder dims just a whisper now, like the memory of a storm. He doesn't notice you watching. His mind is already racing ahead, plotting how to keep this secret hidden from the other gods, from mortals who would dare to ask what really roils in Olympus's heart. And yet even in this silence you know the truth: you can't bury thunder, you can only delay it. As you follow him through the twisting halls, the air grows cooler, the marble floors slick with condensation that never quite dries in this mountain lair. Every step seems to echo with the thunder you left behind, a reminder that secrets have a way of clawing their way back to the light. Remember, friend, the ancients believed thunder was prophecy, each bolt a glimpse of what might come, and tonight the thunder in that cave is a prophecy of its own. Zeus leads you deeper still down corridors few mortals or even lesser gods have ever walked. Here the mosaics on the walls are older, the colours dulled by time, but still whispering stories of battles fought and thrones won. The flickering lamplight picks out scenes of Zeus in all his glory, but to your eyes those ancient images seem to mock him, because no matter how many victories he's claimed, the real battle is the one he's fighting in the shadows. He stops at another door, this one carved with the triple spiral of the Moirai, the Fates, who weave the destinies of mortals and gods alike. You pause and a shiver runs down your spine. Even Zeus must respect the Moirai. After all, not even a king can cut the thread of fate once it's been woven. He rests his hand on the door for a moment as if gathering strength, then pushes it open. The room beyond is larger, warmer, lit by dozens of oil lamps that flicker and dance like the pulse of a living heart. At the centre of the room is a great bronze urn, its surface etched with runes that shimmer in the lamplight. You recognise it instantly, the fabled urn of storms said to hold the echoes of every thunderclap that's ever shaken the sky. A mainstream historical fact to anchor you in ancient times, urns and vessels were seen as both practical tools and symbols of containment. Greeks stored everything from olive oil to wine in them, but also used them in rituals to hold the power of the divine. This urn is no different. It's a vessel for thunder, a desperate attempt to hold back something that will never truly be stilled. Zeus approaches the urn, his face set. He rests his hand on the bronze, and the thunder trapped in the vault seems to answer, humming through the stone beneath your feet, the vibration you feel in your bones. For a moment there's a flicker of hope in his eyes. Maybe this time he thinks the urn will hold what the vault could not. You see him draw a breath, deep and deliberate, and he speaks a single word. You don't understand a word older than Olympus, older than even the first bolt of thunder that split the sky. The urn shivers, the runes flare bright as dawn, and in that instant you see it, the thunder rising not in defiance but in sheer unstoppable hunger. Zeus steps back and the urn glows brighter, the air around it charged with a power that makes your skin prickle. The thunder sings through the room, soft, almost sweet, a lullaby of storms yet to come. You realise in that moment that this isn't the end of Zeus's struggle. It's just another chapter in the same old story, a god trying to master the wild heart of the storm, and the storm reminding him that some things will never be mastered. The urn's glow fades slowly, but the hum of the thunder lingers in the air, a promise, or maybe a threat. Zeus turns away his face, a careful mask once more. But you see the truth in the tight set of his jaw. He knows the thunder is only biding its time. As you leave the chamber behind, you can still hear the faint mocking laughter of the storm echoing in your ears. You step back into the echoing halls, the door to the urn chamber closing with a sigh that sounds almost human. The air still tastes of ozone, but now there's something else layered beneath it, the faint honey-sweet scent of laurel and ancient dust. You realise you're not alone in this corridor. The muses have arrived, drifting in like a summer breeze, their laughter as light as harp strings. Clio, the muse of history, offers you a wry smile as she sweeps past her scroll, trailing behind her like a whispered prophecy. Calliope, with her poet's voice, hums a tune that seems to twine itself around the thunder you just left behind. And there's Erato, mischief in her eyes as she catches your gaze and winks. The muses have always been creatures of inspiration and whispers, but tonight they're more than just gentle voices. They're keepers of the stories that Olympus tries to forget, and the thunder's secret is a tale too tempting to resist. A historical fact to anchor your mind in the midst of all this divine drama in ancient Greek culture. The muses were seen as the ultimate sources of art and memory, each one a patroness of a different craft. Yet even they, for all their grace and wit, can't help but be drawn to the raw power of thunder, the promise of a story that shakes the very bones of the world. As you watch them circle closer to Zeus, you sense their chatter is anything but idle. Do you think he really believes he can hide it? Clio murmurs to Calliope, her eyes glinting with curiosity. Thunder never stays buried for long. Historians still argue whether the muses truly had the power to sway fate, or if they were simply the world's first chroniclers weaving the stories they saw into something mortals could grasp. But tonight, they're more than passive witnesses. They're drawn to the scent of secrets in the air. You feel their whispers brush against your skin light as feathers. A tale like this, Erato says with a sly grin, deserves a grand stage. She glances at you as if you might be part of the performance. Zeus, for his part, does his best to ignore them. His jaw is tight, and he keeps his eyes fixed on the far end of the hall, where shadows gather like storm clouds. But the muses are relentless, weaving around him in a dance of silk and starlight. "It will come out, you know," Clio says softly, her voice a lullaby of unwelcome truth. The thunder always finds a way. Zeus doesn't respond, but the flicker of his eyes tells you he's listening. Maybe he knows they're right. Maybe that's why his fingers keep curling and flexing at his sides, as if he can already feel the thunder's restless pulse. The muses exchange glances, and then they begin to sing. It's not a song you'd find in any mortal temple, but something older even than the first fires of Olympus. Their voices weave together a tapestry of sound that curls through the marble like smoke. A fringe tidbit for your dreams tonight, There's an old half-forgotten myth that the Muses could calm the winds and soothe the sea until they sang for a storm that refused to be tamed and learned that even their voices have limits. The song fades, but the air feels charged in its wake. Zeus shifts his weight, a muscle ticking in his jaw. He knows, and you know no song can silence thunder forever. Calliope steps closer to you, her eyes bright. "Do you hear it?" she asks, and you realise she doesn't mean her song. She means the quiet crackle that still lingers, the memory of thunder in the stone itself. You nod and she smiles faintly, as if you've passed some test you didn't know you were taking. "Good," she says, "'cause that's the sound of a story refusing to die." Zeus brushes past the Muses, and for a moment they part like a tide around a jagged rock. He doesn't look back, but you see the way his shoulders tense, how his steps quicken, as if he can outrun the weight of their song. The Muses watch him go, their smiles soft but knowing. And you can't help but wonder, are they the keepers of memory or the heralds of fate? You move to follow Zeus, but Calliope stops you with a gentle touch. "Careful," she murmurs, "the thunder's secret is a hungry thing. Once you've heard its song, it never truly lets you go." Then she turns away and the Muses vanish down another corridor, their laughter echoing like wind chimes in a summer storm. You're left alone in the hush of the marble hall, the faint scent of laurel still clinging to the air. You can almost feel the thunder's presence even here, as if it seeped into the very bones of Olympus. Zeus is waiting for you up ahead, but you take one last look back, half expecting to see the Muses' shadows lingering. But they're gone, vanished as easily as a dream at dawn. The hall feels colder now, the hush deeper. You move forward, each step a slow echo. You can almost see the thunder ahead of you, a flicker in the shadows, a pulse in the marble. Remember that the Muses were never just gentle guides. They were reminders that every story has teeth, and some songs are written in the voice of the storm itself. Zeus pauses at the end of the hall, his silhouette framed by a shaft of moonlight from an open window. He glances back, and for a moment his eyes meet yours. There's no command in his gaze tonight, no order to kneel or to bow, just a shared knowledge that the thunder isn't gone and it never will be. He turns away again and you follow. The song of the Muses still hums in your ears, a promise that tonight's story is only beginning. The hush of the corridor breaks as you step into the next room, and the change is immediate. Gone are the cool marble halls and gentle torchlight. Here the air is molten with heat, the walls slick with sweat and soot. You've entered Hephaestus' forge, and it feels like stepping into the lungs of the earth itself. The forge is alive with sound, the hiss of quenched iron, the rhythmic clang of hammer on anvil, the low rumble of bellows feeding the ever-hungry fires. Hephaestus stands at the centre of it all, a mountain of a god with shoulders like the cliffs of Crete, his skin gleaming with sweat and the faint glow of the forge's light. You might know Hephaestus as the lame god, the one who fell from Olympus and learned to make beauty from brokenness. But tonight there's nothing fragile about him. His arms move with the surety of centuries, each blow of his hammer a heartbeat that echoes in your bones. A historical fact to anchor this inferno: the Greeks believed that Hephaestus' forge was buried in the heart of volcanoes, places where the earth itself roared and burned, crafting weapons and wonders in the darkness. Standing here you understand why. Zeus waits in the doorway, thunder still flickering faintly in his hand. Hephaestus glances up, his dark eyes glinting like obsidian. "You're early," he rumbles, voice low and steady. "The locks aren't ready." Zeus steps closer, his voice tight. "They need to be ready, Hephaestus. The thunder won't wait." You can almost taste the tension between them, brother and brother, king and craftsman, each one stubborn as the mountain they stand on. Hephaestus wipes a hand on his apron, smearing soot across bronze skin. "Nothing forged in haste holds for long," he says. "You know that." A fringe tidbit for your sleepy mind, some whispered that Hephaestus' forge was a living thing, breathing with the heart of the earth itself. They said he could hear the mountain's sighs, the secrets it kept beneath the stone. Hephaestus turns back to the anvil, his hammer rising and falling in a rhythm older than any myth. Sparks dance around him like fireflies, and you're almost mesmerized by the glow, each strike shaping not just metal, but destiny. Historians still argue Hephaestus mutters as he works whether the thunder is yours to command or if it commands you. The words are soft, but they cut deeper than any blade. You see Zeus flinch just for a moment. Hephaestus doesn't look up again. He works in silence, his hammer striking the red-hot metal with a steady beat. Each ring of iron on anvil seems to echo the thunder's pulse, as if the forge itself is a chorus to the storm outside. You step closer, feeling the heat roll off the forge in waves. The air tastes like iron and fire, and your skin prickles with every breath. You can't help but wonder, what is Hephaestus crafting tonight? A lock for thunder, a cage for a secret too wild to tame. Zeus watches, his eyes locked on the forge. The flicker of the thunder in his hand dims, as if even it respects the power of Hephaestus's hammer. You realize in that moment that this isn't just a forge, it's a place of truth, where even gods must admit their limits. The clang of the hammer slows, and Hephaestus lifts the glowing metal to inspect it. In the orange light you see the shape emerging, a chain, each link thick as a wrist, every curve smooth and perfect. It's beautiful in its simplicity, a thing meant not to break, but to bind. Hephaestus nods once satisfied. It will hold, he says. For a while. His eyes flick to Zeus, and there's no challenge in them, just quiet certainty. Zeus inclines his head, a rare moment of humility, or maybe just exhaustion. That's all I need, he says. Hephaestus plunges the chain into a barrel of water steam erupting in a cloud that smells like rain on hot stone. When he pulls it out, it gleams like captured lightning, each link a promise and a threat. He sets it at Zeus' feet. Remember, he says, his voice low, no chain can hold the thunder forever. You see Zeus' jaw tighten, but he doesn't argue. He bends to pick up the chain, and for a moment you catch the weight of it in his hands, a weight that's more than metal. You step back as Zeus turns away, the chain looped over his arm. The forge's light flickers across his face, and you see a shadow of doubt there, quick but unmistakable. Hephaestus watches him go, then turns back to the forge without a word. The hammer rises and falls again, each blow a heartbeat in the hush that follows. You follow Zeus into the corridor, the door to the forge closing behind you with a sigh of hot air. The chain in his hands is heavy, and you can see how it drags at his shoulders, how even the king of gods feels the weight of what he's trying to hide. Remember that the ancients believed Hephaestus was the only god who could forge something truly unbreakable, because he understood that even the strongest things have flaws. And as you watch Zeus's fingers tighten around the chain, you can't help but wonder, is it the chain that will break first, or the god who dares to wield it? The air outside the forge feels cooler, a balm against the memory of fire and iron. But the echo of the hammer still hums in your ears, a promise that even the thunder can't silence. Zeus doesn't speak as he walks, and you don't dare to break the hush. You can see in his eyes that the chain is more than just metal. It's a question he doesn't want to answer. The halls stretch before you, each step carrying you deeper into a secret that's growing harder to bury. And in the hush of those winding corridors you hear it, the faint, relentless hum of thunder, waiting for its chance to be free. You follow Zeus down the winding corridor, the chain clinking softly with every step he takes. The sound is hypnotic, each link a dull echo that resonates in the marble like a question left unanswered. He moves with purpose, but there's a stiffness in his stride now, as if the weight of Hephaestus's craft has settled not just on his shoulders, but in his very bones. The corridor twists and narrows, the air growing colder and the torches sparser. You notice that the marble here is different, darker veined with streaks of obsidian that glint in the faint light. This isn't the polished grandeur of Olympus's upper halls. This is older stone, closer to the mountain's heart, and it feels like it's holding its breath. Zeus stops at a heavy wooden door bound in iron that looks older than the sky itself. He rests his hand on it, fingers splayed across the ancient grain, and you hear him murmur a word that sounds like thunder spoken in reverse. The door shivers under his touch, then swings open with a creak that seems to echo down to the roots of the mountain. Inside, the air is cooler still, and the flicker of torchlight reveals shadows that dance like spirits. You step through the doorway and find yourself face to face with the Hecatoncheires. They are giants of a kind you've never seen before, each with 50 heads and 100 hands, a riot of limbs and eyes that seem to shift and shimmer in the dim light. Their skin is the colour of moonlight on iron, and their breath steams in the cold air. A historical fact to ground you, the Hecatoncheires were said to be older than the Olympian gods themselves, born from the earth and sky in the dawn of creation. They were the jailers of the Titans, the keepers of chaos, and tonight they are the keepers of Zeus' thunder. Zeus raises the chain in his hand and the lead giant leans closer. His 100 hands move like waves, rippling and folding in an endless dance that makes your eyes ache to follow. "You know why I'm here," Zeus says, his voice steady but not unafraid. The giant's eyes glint in the torchlight, and he inclines one of his many heads. The thunder, he rumbles his voice like a landslide. "You would trust us with it." Zeus nods once, and you can see the weight of that nod in the tight lines of his face. "You've always been the keepers of what should not be unleashed," he says. "Hold it for me. A fringe tidbit for your collection." Some whispered that the Hecatoncheires were not prisoners in Tartarus, but willing jailers choosing to bind chaos so that the world could survive. Historians still argue whether they were forced into that role by Zeus or offered it freely, a pact as old as the first crack of lightning. The lead giant reaches out and 100 hands close around the chain. The metal looks small in those massive fists, almost delicate. For a moment the chain seems to glow brighter, the thunder within it pulsing in defiance. But then it goes still, as if even it knows it cannot fight the weight of so many hands. The giant's fingers tighten and the thunder sighs a low, mournful sound that makes your skin prickle. "It will be kept," the giant says, and the words feel like a promise carved in stone. Zeus exhales his shoulders, loosening a fraction. "Thank you," he says, and there's something almost soft in his voice, a flicker of trust rare as lightning in a cloudless sky. The giant nods again, and the Hecatoncheires turn as one disappearing into the deeper shadows of the chamber. You catch a glimpse of their labyrinth of limbs weaving around each other, a living knot of guardianship and power. The door closes behind them with a sound like finality, and you're left in the hush that follows. Zeus stands still for a moment, his hand resting on the cold wood, as if feeling for a heartbeat that's no longer there. Remember that even in myth there are places where trust is the only chain stronger than iron. The ancients believed that the Hecatoncheires were the last line of defense against the chaos that always waits beyond the edge of the world. Tonight, they are the last line of defense for Zeus's secret, and you can see in his eyes that he knows it. He turns away and you follow the corridor, twisting back on itself like a serpent. The air feels lighter now, as if the weight of the thunder has lifted from the mountain's shoulders. But you know better. You know the thunder isn't gone, just caged waiting. Zeus doesn't speak as he walks, his gaze fixed ahead. You can almost hear the thoughts turning in his mind, the calculations of a king who's learned that even the strongest walls can crack. The torches flicker, and you catch a glimpse of another figure in the shadows, a flash of winged sandals, a sly smile. Hermes waits at the next bend, leaning against the wall, with the ease of someone who's never had to worry about secrets or storms. "Did you really think you could hide it from me?" Hermes drawls, his grin lazy but his eyes sharp. "You know I have a habit of delivering things." Zeus's jaw tightens. "Stay out of this," he says, but there's no real heat in his voice. Hermes just laughs, the sound bright and sharp as a new minted coin. "Oh, I wouldn't dream of interfering," he says. "But if the thunder decides to wander, well, you know how messages travel. A mainstream historical fact for your mind's wanderings, the Greeks saw Hermes as the ultimate messenger, a god who could slip between worlds with a wink and a grin. He was the patron of travellers, thieves, and those who never quite played by the rules. Hermes leans in close, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Historians still argue whether thunder is meant to be carried or to be heard, he says. But I think it's more fun when it's both, don't you? You see Zeus' lips press into a thin line, but he doesn't argue. He just steps past Hermes, and you follow the echo of their conversation trailing behind you, like the soft rumble of distant thunder. As you walk, you realize that the thunder's secret isn't just a burden, it's a promise, a song that even the gods can't resist. And tonight you're part of that song whether you're ready for it or not. The corridor opens up ahead and you step through into a new hush, the thunder's breath still warm in your memory. You know this is only the beginning, that the storm is still waiting, patient and hungry in the darkness, behind those 100 hands. The hush of the corridor is replaced by the soft laughter of Hermes as he flits ahead of you, his sandals barely whispering against the marble floor. He moves like a breeze impossible to catch, always one step ahead. And though he seems amused by the drama swirling around Zeus, there's a glint in his eyes that tells you he's more than just a spectator in this storm. Zeus strides on the weight of his empty hands, a stark contrast to the secret he's just surrendered to the Hecatoncheires. But if he's hoping for peace, he won't find it here. Hermes is already weaving circles around him, his voice smooth and playful as a cat's purr. Quite the show you're putting on, my King Hermes says, his grin sharp enough to cut marble. Thunder locked away giants lurking in the dark, and you so sure you're in control. Zeus doesn't answer. His eyes flick to Hermes with a warning in them, but Hermes only laughs and keeps pace. You know, he says, tilting his head, messages like that thunder and secrets, they're hard to keep quiet. And you know how I love a delivery. You pause to catch your breath, because the truth is, Hermes isn't just taunting Zeus. He's dancing at the edge of something bigger, something that even Zeus' chain of iron can't fully bind. A historical fact for your sleepy mind, Hermes was the god of transitions and boundaries, the one who could slip between mortal and divine, between the living and the dead. He carried messages that no one else dared to speak, and he never lost that glint of mischief that made him both beloved and dangerous. Zeus's shoulders tighten, and you can see the flicker of unease in his eyes. Because thunder, for all its power, is still just a message in the end, a voice that won't be stilled. A warning that refuses to be buried. Hermes leans in close, his breath warm on your ear as he murmurs. Historians still argue whether thunder is meant to be locked away or carried to every corner of the world. But me, I think it's happiest when it's free. He steps back, his laughter echoing down the hall, and you see the flicker of frustration in Zeus' face like a storm cloud gathering on the horizon. But before he can speak, Hermes is already gone, a flash of winged sandals and a grin disappearing around the next bend. You follow Zeus in silence, the air around you still humming with the memory of Hermes' words. The corridor narrows again, and you feel the mountain pressing in on all sides, the weight of Olympus itself, a reminder that even gods must bow to the secrets they keep. Zeus doesn't speak, but his steps quicken, the hush of his sandals on the stone floor, a heartbeat that matches your own. You can see the set of his jaw, the flicker of something in his eyes that isn't just anger, it's fear, and it's more telling than anything. Remember that even the king of the gods is bound by the whispers of the world around him. Thunder isn't just noise, it's a story waiting to be told. And tonight that story is written in every flicker of lightning that haunts these halls. The corridor opens up into a small chamber, its walls lined with tapestries that ripple faintly in the breeze. At the centre of the room is a pool of water, so still it looks like glass reflecting the flicker of torchlight, in patterns that seem almost alive. Zeus pauses at the edge of the pool, his reflection rippling in the water. For a moment he looks almost human, tired, burdened, caught between the weight of his secrets and the certainty that they will never stay hidden. You step closer and the water's surface shivers at your presence, the faintest echo of thunder rumbling beneath the hush of the room. A fringe tidbit for your dreams, the Greeks believed that still water was a gateway to prophecy, a place where the future could be glimpsed in the shimmer of a ripple. Tonight that ripple carries the promise of a storm. Zeus dips his fingers into the water and the ripple expands the light flickering across his face. You see the weariness in his eyes, the hint of doubt he's trying so hard to bury. The thunder will come back, he says softly, almost to himself. It always does. You watch as he lifts his hand from the water droplets gleaming on his fingers like liquid lightning. The hush of the room seems to hold its breath, waiting. You can't help but wonder, is the thunder just a weapon to him or something more? A burden, a promise, a part of himself he can't ever truly let go. Reflection in the water stills, and for a moment it's not just Zeus you see, it's every king, every mortal who's ever tried to cage the wild heart of the world. And in that reflection, you see the truth. The thunder doesn't belong to anyone. It's a promise of chaos, of change, and it refuses to be owned. Zeus draws back, the flicker of doubt gone from his eyes as he turns away. But you see it still lingering in the water's reflection, a glimmer of something he can't quite silence. The room feels smaller now, the air heavy with the weight of everything left unspoken. Zeus strides to the door, his steps steady but his shoulders tight, and you follow the hush of the water's whisper trailing behind you. As you leave the chamber, you feel the air shift, a faint breath of wind that tastes like ozone and rain. The storm is coming, and you know as surely as the thunder in your veins that this story is far from over. Remember that even the swiftest messenger can't outrun the storm forever. Thunder will always find its way, and tonight it's already on the move. The corridor you step into next is darker, the torchlight flickering uncertainly, as if even the flames themselves are wary of what lies ahead. Zeus's shoulders are rigid, his steps deliberate, and you can tell that he's bracing for something more than just the weight of the thunder. The air grows colder, each breath a ghost of frost, and you feel the hush thicken around you. At the far end of the corridor, 3 figures stand waiting, tall and cloaked in shadow, their faces hidden, but their presence unmistakable. The Moirai, the Fates. A historical fact to ground you in Greek myth, the Moirai were the 3 sisters who spun, measured and cut the threads of every life, gods and mortals alike. Clotho, who spun the thread, Lachesis, who measured its length, and Atropos, who cut it when the time was right. No one, not even Zeus, could sway their weaving. As you approach, the flickering torches catch the glint of their shears gleaming silver in the darkness. The air feels charged, as if every breath is borrowed, every heartbeat a question only they can answer. Zeus stops a few paces from them, his hands clenched at his sides. The lead figure steps forward, and in the flicker of the torchlight you glimpse her face, older than time, with eyes that hold every story ever told. Zeus, she says, her voice as soft as falling snow, but with the weight of mountains behind it. You have come to plead your case. Zeus's jaw tightens. I have come to ensure the thunder's fate remains hidden, he says. His voice is low measured, but you can hear the strain beneath it. The second figure, Lachesis, lifts her measuring rod and traces it slowly through the air. The thread of thunder is already spun, she says, her tone neither cruel nor kind. It will find its place no matter how you try to bind it. You feel the cold press closer, and for a moment you're sure you can see the thread itself shimmering faintly in the air, a line of light that pulses with each beat of your heart. Atropos steps forward, her shears gleaming as she lifts them to the thread. Historians still argue, she says, her voice like a distant bell, whether fate is written by the gods or merely read by them. She closes the shears with a soft metallic click, but doesn't cut the thread. Either way it will not be silenced. Zeus doesn't flinch, but you see the flicker of defiance in his eyes. I will not let the thunder break Olympus, he says. Clotho smiles faintly, her fingers still spinning the thread. Thunder is not what breaks breaks kingdoms, she says softly. It is what reveals the cracks already there. A fringe tidbit for your dreams tonight. Some believe that the Moirai wove not just mortal fates, but the fates of empires and storms. Their loom was said to be older than the world itself, each thread a spark of destiny waiting to ignite. Zeus takes a breath, steadying himself. Then weave carefully, he says. If thunder must come, let it be a storm that cleanses, not one that destroys. The Moirai exchange glances, their expressions unreadable. Lachesis tilts her head as if weighing not just the thread, but the weight of his words. We do not weave to please, she says. We weave to endure. You feel a shiver run through you as she speaks, the air itself seeming to tighten around you. The thunder's secret is not just a burden, it is a truth that even the fates cannot unmake. Zeus bows his head, a rare show of deference. Then let it be done, he says. But remember, I am still king here. The Moirai don't answer, but you see the faintest glimmer of amusement in Clotho's eyes. In that moment you realize that even the king of the gods can only bargain with fate, never command it. Zeus turns away and you follow the hush of the corridor, returning like a breath released. Behind you the fates fade back into shadow, their weaving silent but unbroken. The torchlight flickers and you realize the air feels clearer now, the weight of destiny momentarily lifted from your shoulders. But you know it's only an illusion, fate doesn't forget, and thunder doesn't sleep. Zeus walks in silence, his steps echoing softly in the hush. You can see the weight of that meeting in his shoulders, the knowledge that even he cannot outwit the loom of the Moirai. Remember that the ancients believed the fates were older than the gods themselves, older than even the thunder that rumbles in Zeus' hand. Tonight you've seen that truth written in every thread, every flicker of the shears that never miss their mark. As you leave the corridor behind, you feel the echo of the fates weaving, still humming in your bones, a promise that thunder, like every story, has an ending waiting in the dark. And you know as surely as the chill in the air that the thunder's thread is still there, shimmering, waiting, refusing to be cut until it's ready. Zeus doesn't speak as he walks, but you can almost hear his thoughts in the hush. The thunder is no longer his to command. It is a promise that cannot be silenced, a song that will find its voice in the end. Zeus' footsteps carry you away from the fates' cold chamber, deeper into Olympus's winding halls. The air grows warmer again, but the chill of the Moirai's word still clings to your skin, a phantom touch that won't quite fade. You can see it in Zeus's shoulders too, the tension, the awareness that even a god must bow to fate's weaving. The corridor opens out into a grand hall, its columns wrapped in ivy and torches flickering like captured stars. The air is sweet with the scent of crushed grapes and honey, and you hear the soft murmur of laughter echoing through the columns, because here Dionysus waits, god of wine and revelry, of wild abandon and sweet forgetfulness. And tonight he's throwing a feast that could drown the world in wine if he wanted. A historical fact to savour the Greeks believed that Dionysus' festivals, the Bacchanalia, were a time when mortals and gods alike could lose themselves in pleasure, the boundaries between the sacred and the profane dissolving in a haze of wine. As you step into the hall, you see at all tables piled high with golden figs and pomegranates split open like secrets, jugs of wine, so dark they look like molten rubies. And at the centre of it all sits Dionysus himself, lounging on a throne of ivy and roses, his dark curls glinting in the torchlight. He lifts his cup in greeting eyes bright with mischief. Zeus! He cries, his voice rich and warm as the wine he pours. Come, brother, forget your worries for a while. Zeus pauses at the threshold, the weight of his secret, a visible shadow at his back. Dionysus sees it too, but he only smiles, his grin lazy and knowing. You can't keep thunder from the feast forever, he says, swirling the wine in his cup. Even storms like to dance. Zeus doesn't answer, but he steps forward, his expression carefully neutral. You can feel the tension ripple through the room, gods and lesser spirits turning to watch, each one keen to see if the king will truly join the revelry, or remain apart. A fringe tidbit for tonight's dreams, some believed that Dionysus's wine could loosen any tongue, even a god's. That in the right haze of laughter and music, the deepest secrets would spill like sweet nectar onto the marble floor. Dionysus lifts a jug and a lesser god rushes forward to fill your cup. The wine is warm, fragrant with herbs and honey, and you realize how easy it will be to lose yourself here, to let the music and the laughter sweep you away from the storm that waits outside. But you keep your focus on Zeus because you can see the battle in his eyes, the temptation of oblivion against the weight of the thunder still echoing in his thoughts. Dionysus watches him over the rim of his cup, his smile soft but sly. Historians still argue he murmurs whether wine is a gift or a curse. But I think it's both like thunder, it's meant to be felt, not locked away. He leans back in his ivy throne and the music swells around him, pipes and lyres weaving a melody that feels like a living thing, wrapping around your senses until the world beyond this hall fades to a distant memory. You catch glimpses of other gods in the crowd, Aphrodite's laughter bright as dawn, Apollo's fingers dancing along the strings of a golden lyre. The air is thick with the scent of roasted figs, and the promise of things better left unspoken. Zeus finally takes a cup of wine, lifting it to his lips. His eyes flicker closed for just a moment, and in that heartbeat you see the weight slip from his shoulders. But when he lowers the cup again, his gaze is still clear, still fixed on the secret he carries. Dionysus leans forward, his smile gentle but insistent. "Drink deep, brother," he says. "Let the storm rest for a night." Zeus nods, once a faint smile ghosting across his lips, a flicker of warmth in the cold mask he's worn since the thunder's first rumble. You sip your own wine, the sweetness of it lingering on your tongue, and you feel the hush of the hall around you, gods and mortals caught in a moment of calm before the storm. Remember that the Greeks believed wine was a doorway to the divine, a way to taste the power of the gods in every sip. And tonight you're part of that feast, even as you feel the thunder humming beneath the laughter. The music swells, and for a moment even you believe that the thunder might be forgotten, drowned in wine and music and the soft glow of torchlight. But you know better. You've seen the flicker in Zeus' eyes, the tightness in his shoulders that no song can ease. Because thunder is a promise, and promises have a way of finding their voice even in the midst of revelry. You catch Dionysus' gaze across the table, and he winks as if he knows exactly what you're thinking. Let them drink, let them dance, his smile seems to say. The thunder can wait until dawn. But in the hush beneath the music you hear it still, a low steady pulse like the beat of a distant drum. The storm is coming, and no feast, no matter how sweet, can hold it back forever. As the laughter and music wash over you, you realize this moment is a lullaby. A brief pause in the song of the storm, a breath before the thunder finds its voice once more. The laughter and music of Dionysus' feast fade into the background as you slip through the crowd following Zeus as he weaves a careful path between revelers, lost in the haze of wine and song. The air is thick with the scent of crushed grapes and sweet fig, but even here in this moment of wild abandon, you can sense the tension coiling around Zeus like a storm cloud waiting to break. You see it in the way his eyes flicker to every shadow, every corner of the room where secrets might lurk, and you feel it in the way the thunder still hums beneath the laughter, a low, restless drumbeat that refuses to be silenced. At the edge of the hall, near a colonnade that opens onto the night sky, Prometheus waits. The firebringer, the trickster who stole the flame of the gods and gave it to mortals, he stands apart from the revelry, his sharp eyes catching every flicker of light and shadow. A historical fact for your mind's quiet delight. The Greeks believed Prometheus was both a saviour and a troublemaker, a titan who dared to challenge the gods for the sake of humankind. His name meant forethought, and tonight that foresight glints in his gaze like a hidden blade. Zeus pauses when he sees him, the two of them locked in a silent standoff that seems to echo with every crackle of the hidden thunder. Prometheus inclines his head, a faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "You've come far tonight, Zeus," he says softly, his voice smooth as river stone. "But some fires can't be buried." Zeus's jaw tightens. "This isn't your concern," he says, but there's no real anger in his voice, just the weight of knowing Prometheus sees more than he should. Prometheus shrugs, the faint glow of torchlight catching the curve of his lips. Historians still argue, he murmurs, whether thunder is a gift from the gods or a curse from the earth itself. But either way, it refuses to be hidden for long. He steps closer, his gaze flicking to the distant mountains beyond the colonnade where the night sky is split by flashes of distant lightning. "You can chain it, Zeus," he says, "but you can't unmake what it means. Thunder is the voice of the world, not just the voice of a god." A fringe tidbit for tonight's dream, some whispered that Prometheus could taste the future in every flicker of flame, that he saw the thunder's path not as a secret, but as a story already written in the stars. Zeus doesn't speak, but you see his eyes flicker with something like unease, or maybe just a weariness too deep for words. The revelry behind you seems to fade the laughter of the gods like a distant memory as the two of them stand framed by the night. Prometheus tilts his head, his expression almost gentle. "You're afraid," he says softly. "Not of the thunder itself, but of what it will reveal when it breaks free." Zeus's shoulders stiffen, and for a moment you think he might deny it. But then he sighs a breath that seems to echo through the marble, heavy with things he'll never say aloud. "I will not let it destroy Olympus," he says, finally, his voice low steady, "no matter what it takes." Prometheus's smile fades into something softer, almost sad. "Thunder doesn't destroy," he says. "It awakens. It reminds the world that even the gods can't hold back the storm forever." You see the flicker of defiance in Zeus's eyes, a king who's spent centuries bending the world to his will, unwilling to admit that some things will never be bound. But you also see the truth in Prometheus's gaze, the quiet certainty of someone who's walked the edge of fate and come back with the scent of fire on his skin. Prometheus steps back, his gaze lingering on the stormlit horizon. "Remember, Zeus," he says, his voice soft but clear, "you're not the only one who hears the thunder." Then he turns away, vanishing into the shadows of the colonnade, leaving only the echo of his words behind. Zeus stands still for a long moment, his face carved from marble in the pale light. You see the struggle in his eyes, the weight of a secret too heavy for any god to carry alone. You move to his side, the hush of the night pressing close around you. The air tastes of rain and something older, something that feels like destiny itself. Remember that even in myth, thunder is more than noise. It's a herald of change, a promise that the world will never stay still. And tonight you're part of that promise, whether you're ready or not. Zeus turns back to the feast, his face calm but his shoulders tight, and you follow the echo of Prometheus's words still warm in your mind. The laughter and music wash over you again, but you can't shake the feeling that the storm is closer now, the thunder louder in the hush beneath the song, and you know as surely as the night is dark that the feast is only a moment's respite before the storm breaks. As you watch Zeus rejoin the revelry, you see it in his eyes, the knowledge that thunder can't be hidden forever, and that when it comes it will crack Olympus open like a seed bursting in the rain. You step away from the feast with Zeus, the music and laughter receding behind you like the last notes of a song you can't quite forget. The marble hall opens into a balcony that juts out over the mountainside, and for a moment everything is still. The air is cool, the sky awash in stars, and the hush of the night feels almost holy. But below the world shifts. Far beneath Olympus, where no torchlight reaches you, hear it, a low, echoing rumble, like a breath drawn in the dark. Thunder's restless sigh, stirring even in the quietest corners of the world. Zeus stands at the balcony's edge, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon. His hand curls around the stone rail, and you see the strain in his knuckles, the tension in his shoulders. He's not alone in this hush. Hades watches from the shadows, his eyes like chips of polished obsidian catching every flicker of starlight. A historical fact for your dreams tonight. The Greeks believed Hades ruled not just the underworld, but the echoes of the world above. Even in death, nothing was truly silent. Every thunderclap, every secret carried a shadow in his realm. Hades steps forward, his dark robe shifting like smoke. The thunder reaches even here, he says, his voice low and grave. You can chain it to a mountain, Zeus, but you cannot chain the memory of its roar. Zeus doesn't turn. I have given it to the Hecaton Kyries, he says. It will not break free. A faint smile touches Hades' lips, but it's not amusement, you see. It's something older, something patient. Historians still argue, he says, whether thunder belongs to the sky or the earth. But I know this every echo finds its way home. You feel the truth of his words in the air around you, the sense that thunder is not just a weapon, but a promise etched into the bones of the world. The hush of the night deepens the stars watching in their silent vigil. A fringe tidbit for your collection. Some said that when the first thunder cracked the sky, it was Hades who heard it in the underworld first, its echo a herald of storms to come. Zeus's hand tightens on the rail. I will not let it reach the underworld, he says, his voice low fierce. The thunder is mine to command. Hades lifts a hand and the shadows at his feet seem to shift and ripple. Perhaps he says, but the dead hear everything, Zeus, even the truths you try to bury. You watch as the two of them stand in the hush, a king of the sky and a king of the dead, each one bound by their own domains, and yet thunder bridges the distance between them like a thread of silver in the dark. Zeus finally turns his gaze, meeting Hades' steady stare. I did not come here to argue, he says. I came to warn you. When the thunder breaks free, and it will not choose where it strikes. Hades inclines his head, the faintest flicker of respect in his eyes. I know, he says, and I will be ready. The night is quiet around them, but you feel the hush is only a lull, a breath held before the thunder's roar. The mountain beneath your feet seems to hum with the promise of it, the softest echo of what's to come. Zeus steps back from the balcony, his face a careful mask of calm. But you see the weariness in his eyes, the knowledge that even gods can't outrun the storm forever. Remember that the ancients believed thunder was more than a sound, it was a voice that speaks in the darkness, reminding even the dead that nothing stays silent for long. Hades fades back into the shadows, his dark robes blending with the night, and you realize he's not afraid of the thunder. He's already heard its echo in every corner of his realm. You follow Zeus as he leaves the balcony, the hush of the night folding around you like a cloak. The laughter and music of the feast are only memories now, and the quiet feels alive with the weight of secrets too heavy to be silenced. Zeus walks in silence, his steps slow and measured, and you know he's no longer thinking of chains or locks. He's thinking of echoes, the way thunder finds its voice even in the quietest halls. As you step back into the marble corridor, you hear the distant rumble of thunder again, soft, insistent, like a promise in the dark. And you know as surely as the stars wheel overhead that the thunder isn't gone. It's only waiting patient and relentless for the moment when even the king of the gods must listen. You step away from the balcony, the hush of the mountain air still clinging to your skin, and you follow Zeus down another corridor that seems to twist deeper into Olympus than you've ever been. The marble beneath your feet is cold, veined with dark streaks that look like frozen lightning, and every step echoes with the promise of what's to come. At the end of the passage, an ancient archway opens into the oracle's sanctuary, a space older than any temple, older even than the first stories of the gods. Here the air tastes of dust and mystery, the scent of burned laurel, and the faint sweetness of honeyed incense. A hush of reverence settles over you, and you feel the weight of the place settle into your bones. A historical fact to anchor your steps. Delphi was the heart of prophecy in the ancient world, a place where mortals and gods alike came to hear the voice of the earth itself. The oracle's words shaped war's crowned kings and broke them in equal measure. Zeus pauses at the threshold, his hand resting on the cold stone. The torchlight flickers across his face, and for a moment he looks as old as the mountain itself, every line carved by storms he can't quite control. Inside, the oracle waits. Her eyes are closed, but you know she sees more than the world allows. She sits on a low stone seat, the Pythia's tripod at her feet, a faint curl of smoke rising from the crack in the floor that leads down into the heart of the earth. The hush is absolute here, the kind of silence that holds every word ever spoken and every secret never said. Zeus steps forward and the oracle lifts her head, her eyes opening like dawn over the mountains. Her gaze is calm, but there's a flicker of something else, something that sees the thunder in Zeus' heart. Zeus, she says, her voice soft but resonant, you bring me the storm tonight. He nods once. The thunder grows restless, he says. I need to know how to bind it, how to keep it from breaking everything I've built. The oracle tilts her head, her eyes going distant as if she's listening to a song no one else can hear. Historians still argue, she murmurs, whether prophecy is a gift or a burden, but in the end it is always a mirror showing what already lives in the heart. She leans forward, the smoke coiling around her like a living thing. The thunder is not just a weapon, she says. It is a voice, and voices cannot be caged forever. A fringe tidbit for your dreams tonight. Some believe that the oracle's power came from the breath of the earth itself, the exhalation of ancient titans sleeping beneath the rock. In her words, they heard the heartbeat of the world. Zeus's jaw tightens, and you see the flicker of frustration in his eyes. I did not come for riddles, he says. I need answers. The oracle smiles, faintly, a curve of lips that holds no malice, only the quiet certainty of someone who's seen every secret rise and fall. Then listen, she says softly. The thunder is yours, but it is also the world's. It will not be silenced. It will not be hidden. It will break, and in its breaking it will reveal what has always been. Zeus says nothing, but you feel the hush deepen, the smoke curling tighter around your feet. The oracle closes her eyes again, her breath steady and slow. Remember this, she says, her voice a whisper that seems to echo in the stones. When the thunder speaks, it speaks not just for you, but for every whisper in the dark, every echo in the mountain, every heartbeat that still dares to defy the silence. The room is silent again, the only sound the faint crackle of the torchlight. Zeus's shoulders are rigid, his hands curled into fists at his sides. You see it in his eyes, the struggle, the knowledge that even a king can't unmake what prophecy has already spoken. You stand there in the hush, feeling the weight of the oracle's words settle into your bones like cold rain. The thunder is not just a secret, it is a story, and stories will always find their way to the light. Zeus turns away, the movement slow and deliberate. He doesn't speak, but you see the resolve settle in his shoulders, the calm before the storm, the knowledge that the only way to stop the thunder is to face it. You follow him out of the sanctuary, the hush of the oracle's chamber clinging to your skin. The mountain feels closer here, the weight of rock and prophecy pressing in from every side. As you step back into the corridor, you hear the faintest rumble in the distance, the thunder's restless murmur, a promise of what's still to come. And you know as surely as the night is dark that the oracle's words will echo in your dreams long after this journey ends. Because the thunder is awake now, and it will not sleep again. You follow Zeus back into the winding corridors of Olympus, the hush of the oracle's words, still clinging to your ears like the faintest memory of thunder. He walks quickly now, each step measured, his jaw tight with the weight of what he's heard. You can feel it too, the way the mountain seems to hum around you, the air charged with something that feels like a secret on the verge of being spoken. The corridor opens into a small balcony overlooking the mortal world far below. The night is clear, the stars bright and cold, and you see villages scattered like fallen embers in the darkness. Tiny lights, tiny lives, each one a flicker in the vast night. A historical fact to steady you in ancient Greece, thunder was more than just a sound, it was an omen. When it rolled across the sky, mortals knew the gods were watching, and every crackle of lightning was a reminder that the divine was never far away. Tonight that thunder is closer than they know. Zeus stands at the balcony's edge, his hands gripping the marble rail so tightly you see the white of his knuckles. He looks down at the mortal world and you see the flicker of something in his eyes, something like doubt, something like fear. Behind him whispers grow. The lesser gods, half hidden in the shadows of the balcony, murmur among themselves. Word travels fast in Olympus, and the thunder's secret is no longer just Zeus' burden to bear. You hear it in their voices, soft, worried, tinged with a curiosity that's almost cruel. The thunder can't be hidden forever, one says his words barely more than a breath. Even the mortals will feel it soon. A fringe tidbit for your night's musing. Some claim that mortals could sense thunder before it ever cracked the sky, the hair on their arms rising in silent greeting to the storm that was already on the move. Zeus doesn't turn to the whispers. He keeps his gaze fixed on the world below, but you see the set of his shoulders rigid, unyielding, the last line of defense against a truth that refuses to be silenced. You step closer, the air sharp with the chill of the night. Far below you see torches flicker in the darkness, tiny fires that seem to echo the thunder's pulse in the mountain's heart. And you know as surely as the dawn will come that those mortals will feel it soon. The hush before the storm always finds its way to every door, every quiet hilltop. Zeus draws a slow breath, the cold air turning to mist as it leaves his lips. They will hear it, he says softly, more to himself than to you. And when they do, they will remember that even the sky is not silent. He turns back to the gods behind him, his gaze hard, his voice steady. The thunder is not theirs to fear, he says. It is a warning and a promise, and I will not let it destroy what we have built. The lesser gods nod, but you see the doubt in their eyes, the worry that coils like smoke in the hush. Because even they know the truth, thunder does not ask permission. It speaks in the voice of the world itself. You remember that the ancients believed thunder was the laughter of Zeus, a sound that could crack mountains and hearts in equal measure. But tonight there's no laughter in Zeus' eyes, only the quiet resolve of a king who knows the storm is already here. The whispers fade as he turns back to the balcony, his gaze sweeping the night like a watchman who sees every flicker of torchlight, every heartbeat in the dark. You see it too, the way the hush of the world seems to gather around those mortal fires, the way the night itself seems to lean closer. And you know that the thunder's secret is no longer a secret at all. It's a promise, waiting in the dark, a story that's already begun to write itself across the sky. Zeus straightens his hand, lifting to touch the marble rail as if he can feel the pulse of the mountain beneath his palm. Let them hear it, he says quietly, his voice steady. Let them know the thunder is mine, but it belongs to them too. You feel the hush deepen the cold air, wrapping around you like a cloak. Far below you see a flicker of lightning on the horizon, a faint distant glow that seems to pulse in time with your heartbeat. Remember that even in the smallest flicker of light, the promise of thunder waits. It waits in the hush before the storm, in the whisper of wind through ancient halls, in the steady beat of mortal hearts that know the world is never truly silent. Zeus turns from the balcony, his eyes meeting yours with a calm that feels like the edge of a blade. The time for secrets is over, he says. The thunder will speak and we will answer. And you know as you follow him back into the hush of the marble halls that the storm is no longer just a threat. It is a truth that even the gods must learn to face. The marble halls feel colder as you follow Zeus away from the balcony, the weight of his resolve pressing in around you like the first breath of a coming storm. The corridor is silent except for the faint rustle of his robes and the quiet echo of your own footsteps. But even in that hush you hear it, the low, insistent thrum of thunder somewhere deep in the mountain's heart, a pulse that won't be silenced. You know now that the secret has grown too big for any god to hold alone. It flickers in every torch's glow, hums in the marble beneath your feet, and tonight it's already begun to break free. Zeus stops at a doorway, the thick oak door bound with iron bands that gleam in the flickering light. He rests his hand on the wood for a moment, and you see the lines of strain in his face, the weight of the choice he's about to make. When he pushes the door open, the air rushes past you, cold and electric, tasting of rain and old promises. You step into the chamber beyond and find yourself in a vaulted hall, lit by 100 flickering braziers. The ceiling soars high above, lost in shadow, and the walls are hung with tapestries that whisper of wars long past. At the centre of the hall stands a single figure, a god whose power is felt more than seen. Athena. Her armour gleams in the brazier light, the owl crest of her helm catching the glow like a distant star. Her gaze is steady calm as the hush before a storm breaks. "Zeus," she says, her voice low and even, "you've kept the thunder too long. It's time to face what comes." A historical fact for your thoughts tonight. The ancient Greeks believed Athena was born from Zeus's own skull, a daughter of thought and strategy. In her they saw the strength of wisdom sharpened into a blade. Zeus steps forward, his shoulders set. It is not yet time, he says, but his voice lacks the iron it once held. Athena tilts her head, her grey eyes narrowing. Historians still argue, she says softly, whether thunder is a tool of war or a voice of warning. But it doesn't care what name you give it, Zeus, it will speak when it must. You see a flicker of something in Zeus's gaze, pride maybe, or stubbornness. But beneath it a weariness he can't quite hide. The weight of centuries of battles won and lost, of secrets kept in the dark. A fringe tidbit for your restless mind. Some said Athena could hear the future in the hush of a battlefield, that she knew every path the thunder might take before it struck. Zeus' hand tightens at his side. "I have done what I must," he says. "I've kept Olympus safe." Athena's expression doesn't change, but you hear the faintest note of challenge in her voice. Safe from what, father, the thunder, or the truth it carries? The air in the hall seems to tighten around you, each brazier's flicker catching the glint of Athena's armour, the shadows shifting like watchful eyes. Zeus says nothing, but you feel the strain in the hush that follows the way the walls themselves seem to lean closer to listen. Remember that even the gods can't outrun the thunder. It is older than any crown, wilder than any throne, and tonight it feels closer than ever. Athena steps forward, her hand resting on the hilt of her spear. "Let it come," she says softly. "Let it speak. We will not cower in the shadow of what we already know." Zeus's jaw tightens, but his eyes meet hers steady and resigned. In that silence you see it, the understanding that no chain, no vault, no whisper of prophecy can hold back what is already on the move. He turns from her without a word, his steps slow and deliberate as he walks past the braziers. The thunder's pulse seems to grow louder in your ears with every heartbeat. As you follow, the hush of the hall wraps around you like a second skin. The torches flicker, the air tastes of iron and ash, and you know this is no longer just a secret. It is a reckoning. Zeus pauses at the far end of the hall, his back to Athena. His voice is quiet, but it carries in the hush. The thunder will speak, he says, and when it does, we will face it together. Athena inclines her head, her expression calm. "Then let us be ready," she says. You feel the hush deepen as they stand there, two gods caught between pride and necessity, and you realize the thunder is not just a storm in the sky. It is a storm in every heart that still dares to believe in something more than silence. As you leave the hall, the thunder's murmur follows you, soft, insistent, the promise of a voice that will not be denied. And you know as surely as the mountain stands beneath your feet that the moment of truth is no longer far away, because thunder does not ask permission. It does not wait for the world to be ready. It speaks when it must, and tonight it is already whispering in every flicker of light, every hush of breath. You leave Athena's hall behind your steps, echoing in the marble hush as you follow Zeus deeper into the heart of Olympus. The corridors twist and turn, the flicker of torchlight weaving long shadows that seem to lean in closer with every breath. The hush is thicker here, each step a question that hangs unanswered in the charged air. Zeus's shoulders are stiff, his pace deliberate. You see the tension in his jaw, the weight of centuries pressing down on him like the mountain's own bones. But you also see something else, a flicker of resolve, a glint in his eyes that says he knows what's coming and he will meet it head on. At the end of the corridor, a great bronze door looms, its surface carved with scenes of thunder and storm, Zeus's own victories etched in metal that gleams like captured lightning. The door is shut, but you can feel the thrum of power behind it, the restless pulse of a storm that will not sleep. Zeus rests his hand on the door, his fingers tracing the ancient carvings. He doesn't speak, but you hear the low murmur of the thunder beyond the promise of a voice that will not be silenced much longer. A historical fact to ground you: the Greeks believed that even the greatest halls of Olympus were never truly still. The thunder's echo was said to haunt every corner, a reminder that the gods themselves were born of the storm. Zeus draws a slow breath, then pushes the door open. The air that rushes past you tastes of ozone and old stone, sharp as the memory of rain. You step into the council chamber of the gods, and the hush breaks into 1,000 whispers. The gods are already gathered, their faces lit by the flicker of braziers set around the room. Ares, his eyes bright with battle hunger. Apollo, his fingers idly strumming a golden lyre that hums with an echo of distant thunder. Even Hermes is here, lounging against a pillar with a faint knowing smile. At the centre of it all stands Hera, her gaze calm and cold as she meets Zeus's eyes. "You kept it too long," she says quietly. "The thunder is not yours to bury." Zeus steps forward, the hush of the chamber shifting around him. "It is mine to command," he says, his voice low but steady, "and it will not break this council." Ares lets out a low chuckle, the sound sharp as a blade unsheathed. Historians still argue, he says, his tone almost mocking, whether thunder is a challenge to be met or a fury to be unleashed. But I say it's both, and I welcome it. You see the flicker of anger in Zeus's eyes, but he doesn't answer. The hush grows deeper, the braziers glow, catching the glint of golden circlets and jewelled clasps, each one a crown that seems too heavy tonight. A fringe tidbit for your dreams tonight. Some said that in this very hall, thunder was first gifted to Zeus by the Cyclopes born of lightning and iron, a promise and a curse forged in the dark. Hera's gaze softens just a fraction. "You think you can command the storm?" she says, her voice gentle but unyielding. But thunder does not kneel, not even to a king. The hush holds its breath as the words settle between them, as old as the mountain itself. Zeus's jaw tightens, but he lifts his head, his eyes sweeping the gathered gods. "It is not thunder that must be silenced," he says, each word measured, each breath a promise. "It is our fear of what it reveals." Apollo's lyre falls silent, the last note fading into the hush. Even Ares seems to still his restless fingers, pausing on the hilt of his sword. The hush deepens, a pause that feels like the moment before the sky itself cracks open. Remember that the ancients believed thunder was the laughter of the gods, a sound that echoed in the bones of the earth. But tonight there is no laughter here, only the slow, steady beat of something older than fear. Hera inclines her head, her expression unreadable. "Then let it speak," she says quietly. "Let the thunder tell its truth." Zeus nods once the motion's small but final. He steps forward, and you see the way his hand trembles as he reaches for the small, simple brazier at the centre of the room. He lifts the brazier, the faint glow of its coals catching the glint of gold in his eyes. The hush is absolute now, every god watching, every breath held. In that silence you hear it, the first soft crackle of thunder, the low rumble of a voice that has waited too long to be heard. The glow of the brazier seems to deepen the air, growing thick and warm, tasting of rain and promise. Zeus lowers the brazier to the marble floor, and the hush seems to lean closer, every god's gaze fixed on the quiet flicker of light. And then in the hush the thunder speaks. A single bolt of light, thin as a thread of silver, cracks across the coals, bright enough to burn itself into your vision. The hush breaks not into noise but into something deeper, a stillness that vibrates in your bones, a promise of what's to come. Zeus steps back, his face calm but his eyes bright with something fierce and unspoken. Around you the gods lean in the hush of the council, replaced by the breathless anticipation of the storm's first cry, because this is no longer a secret. This is the moment when thunder finds its voice, and the world must listen. The hush of the council chamber still hums in your ears as you step back with Zeus, the single crackle of thunder from the brazier echoing in every breath. The glow of the coal still flickers bright as a heartbeat, and you see it in the gods' faces, no longer just curiosity but something deeper, reverence, and a sliver of fear. Zeus stands at the centre of it all, his gaze steady on the flickering brazier. He lifts his head, and in the hush that follows you hear the low murmur of the storm beyond these marble walls, a promise that can no longer be ignored. Hera steps forward, her voice soft but clear. The thunder has spoken, she says. It is no longer a secret to be hidden. It is a truth that will be heard. Zeus' jaw tightens, but he doesn't argue. Instead, he lowers his head, his hand resting lightly on the marble table that rings the council. It will be heard, he says, his voice calm but with an edge of iron that cuts through the hush. A historical fact to anchor you in the myth. Zeus' thunder was more than just a sound. It was a sign of his dominion, the roar of a king whose word was law. But tonight, you see that even he knows thunder can't be commanded forever. The lesser gods watch in silence, their eyes wide in the flickering glow. Even Ares, so quick to laugh at another's fear, seems subdued, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword but not drawing it. The hush is a weight around your shoulders, thick as the mountain's own bones. Athena's gaze is steady, her grey eyes reflecting the brazier's glow. Historians still argue, she says softly, whether thunder is the voice of justice or the voice of chaos, but either way it will not be stilled. You see the flicker of something like pride in Zeus's eyes, a glimmer of the king he has always been, even in the face of a storm that refuses to bow. Then let it speak, he says, but let us speak with it. You hear it then, the soft rustle of feet as Hermes steps forward, his winged sandals, almost silent on the marble. He lifts his head, his sly smile gone, for once his eyes serious. The message must be carried, he says. If thunder has a voice, it will echo in every corner of the world. A fringe tidbit for your dreams tonight. Some believed Hermes carried not just mortal messages, but the secrets of the gods themselves. Whispers wrapped in silver laughter, truths carried on the wind. Zeus nods his gaze, flicking to the doors of the council chamber. Then let it be carried, he says. Let the world know that Olympus will not hide from its own thunder. You see the gods exchange glances, the hush shifting as they realize the weight of what has been set in motion. Thunder has never been a secret, it has always been a promise, and now it is a promise that can no longer be contained. Zeus turns from the brazier, his eyes meeting yours. You see it in that gaze, calm, resolute, but with a flicker of something more. A spark. The knowledge that this is no longer just about thunder, it is about everything that comes after. He steps past you, his shoulders straight, and you feel the hush follow him like a cloak. The gods move to follow their footsteps, quiet on the marble, and you realize this isn't just a council anymore. It's a procession, a march toward the moment when the thunder will no longer be a secret. Remember that the Greeks believed thunder was prophecy, the voice of the future spoken in the language of storms. And tonight you see that prophecy unfolding in every flicker of light, every hush of breath. As you step out of the council chamber, the air feels sharper, the weight of what's coming pressing close around you. The corridors of Olympus seem to lean in the marble walls, holding their breath for what they know will follow. Zeus leads the way, his steps steady as the mountain itself. The hush grows deeper, the flicker of torchlight painting your path in gold and shadow. You see the other gods fall into place behind him. Athena, her eyes bright with thought. Hermes, his smile gone, but his eyes alive with secrets. Hera calm and cold as the hush before rain. The echo of your steps is the only sound, but you hear it still, the low insistent murmur of thunder, patient and hungry in the darkness. Because this is no longer a matter of choice. The thunder will speak and the world will listen. Zeus stops at the top of a long winding staircase that leads down into the mountain's heart. He stands there for a moment, his eyes fixed on the darkness below. Then he turns back to you, his expression calm but his voice low and sure. This is the path, he says, the only way forward. We will not run from what we have kept hidden. You nod and you see a flicker of approval in his eyes, brief but enough to know you stand with him in this moment of truth. The hush is absolute as you take the first step down the stone cool beneath your feet. The thunder's voice is closer now, a low murmur that hums in your bones, and you know as surely as the mountain stands around you that you are no longer just a witness to the storm. You are part of it. You descend the winding staircase, the hush pressing close around you, like the weight of the mountain itself. Each step echoes in the dark, the cold stone under your feet, slick with the breath of the earth. The torches flicker in iron brackets, their light soft and restless, and you feel the thunder's pulse growing louder with every turn of the spiral. Zeus moves steadily ahead, the glow of the torches catching the lines of strain in his face. You see the flicker of determination in his eyes, his silent promise that he will not turn back no matter how loud the storm becomes. At the bottom of the staircase, the passage opens into a small stone landing. Beyond it, a narrow doorway stands ajar, the air that seeps from it, tasting of rain and the deep ancient hush of the earth. Zeus pauses, his hand on the doorframe, and for a moment he simply breathes, slow and steady, as if to steady the mountain itself. He pushes the door open, and you step through into a cavern lit by a pale, flickering light. The walls are rough, and black veins of silver and quartz glinting like starlight caught in stone. The air is thick and cool, and in the hush of the chamber you hear the low, insistent hum of thunder, soft, patient and unyielding. A shepherd stands at the heart of the cavern, his cloak patched and worn, his staff clutched tight in one calloused hand. His eyes are wide with a mix of fear and wonder, and you see the glow of the thunder reflected in their depths. He is no king, no god, just a mortal soul who wandered too close to a secret meant for the sky. A historical fact to steady your racing heart in ancient times. Shepherds were often the first to hear thunder rolling over the hills, their lives lived close to the pulse of the world. The Greeks believed that even the humblest mortal could be a witness to the will of the gods. The shepherd meets Zeus's gaze, and for a moment the hush is absolute, no words, no breath, just the soft glow of the thunder between them, and you see it in that mortal's eyes, the simple, aching knowledge that he has seen what no mortal should ever see. Zeus steps forward, his voice low and calm. "You should not be here," he says, but there is no anger in it, only the quiet weight of inevitability. The shepherd shakes his head slowly, his fingers tightening on his staff. "I heard it," he says, his voice soft but unshaken. "The thunder called to me. A fringe tidbit for your dreams tonight. Some said that mortals who heard the thunder in their bones were touched by prophecy that the storm's voice could crack open even the quietest heart." Zeus's jaw tightens, but he does not deny it. The thunder speaks to all he says, his eyes flickering with something almost like sorrow, but it is not meant for mortal ears. The shepherd lifts his chin, the glow of the thunder painting his face in light and shadow. "It is meant for all who can hear it," he says softly. "Even me." The hush deepens, the thunder's hum filling the air like a heartbeat. You see the gods gather at the edge of the cavern, Athena's calm eyes, Hermes' quick, flickering smile, Hera's calm, cold gaze. They watch the shepherd with something that might be respect, or maybe just the quiet acknowledgement that even a mortal has a place in the Song of the Storm. Historians still argue whether mortals who glimpsed the divine were blessed or cursed, whether the thunder's voice was a gift of prophecy or a mark of fate. But in this hush there is no argument, only the quiet certainty that the shepherd has seen what cannot be unseen. Zeus lifts his hand, the glow of the thunder flaring brighter in the air around him. "Then hear it," he says softly. "If you will not turn away, then know what the thunder means." The shepherd's eyes widen, but he does not flinch. The light of the thunder seems to wrap around him, warm and cold all at once, and you see the flicker of awe in his gaze, like a mortal soul touching the edge of something too vast to name. The hush is absolute as the thunder's voice grows low and resonant, filling the cavern with a song older than the mountain itself. You feel it in your bones, the promise of rain, the weight of the sky, the simple, unbreakable truth that nothing can hold back the storm forever. Zeus lowers his hand, the light of the thunder dimming but not fading. The shepherd stands still, his breath slow and steady, and you see the calm in his eyes, the quiet acceptance that the thunder's voice is part of every breath, every heartbeat. Remember that even in the humblest soul, the song of the storm finds a home. The Greeks believed that thunder was prophecy, a voice that echoed in the smallest corners of the world, and tonight you see that truth written in the hush of this cavern. Zeus turns back to the gods, his face calm and resolute. "The thunder is no longer just ours," he says. "It belongs to the world, and it will speak in every corner of it." The hush shifts, the gods nodding in silent agreement, and you know as you stand there in the soft glow of the thunder's light that this is the moment when the secret becomes a promise that will find its voice in every storm yet to come. The hush of the cavern lingers like the echo of a song that refuses to end. The shepherd stands still, the faint glow of the thunder still shimmering in his eyes, and you see in that quiet the heart of every story ever told of mortals who dared to look beyond the veil, and gods who could not keep their secrets forever. Zeus turns from the shepherd, his face calm, but his jaw set in a line of quiet resolve. You see it in his eyes, the understanding that the thunder's voice will not be caged again, and in that understanding a promise, one that reaches beyond Olympus, beyond the hush of these halls, out into the world that waits beneath the stars. He lifts his hand, and for a moment the thunder's glow flares in the palm of his hand bright as dawn. The air seems to shiver around you, every breath tasting of rain and the sharp tang of lightning. The gods gather closer, their eyes fixed on the light that flickers in Zeus' hand. Ares' fingers tighten on the hilt of his sword, the glint of battle hunger in his gaze. Hermes watches with a faint knowing smile, and Hera's calm, cold eyes flicker with something like respect. A historical fact to anchor your steps: in the oldest myths, Zeus' thunderbolts were said to be crafted by the Cyclops, born in the forge of the earth, shaped in the fires that burned beneath every mountain. Thunder was never just a weapon. It was a testament to the power of creation itself. Tonight you see that power alive in the glow that flickers between Zeus's fingers, a heartbeat of the world that will not be silenced. Zeus lowers his hand, the light of the thunder steady but no longer wild. He turns to the gods, his voice calm but with an edge of finality that cuts through the hush. This is the moment, he says. The thunder will speak, and Olympus must answer. Athena steps forward, her grey eyes steady. Historians still argue, she says softly, whether the thunder's roar is a promise or a threat, but either way it will not be denied. Zeus nods, his gaze sweeping the circle of gods. Then let it be a promise, he says, a promise that we will not fear what we cannot bind. A fringe tidbit for your dreams tonight. Some believed that the first thunder was the heartbeat of the world itself, a voice that cracked the sky open and called forth every breath, every whisper of life. The hush seems to deepen the air thick with the weight of the choice that has already been made. Zeus lifts his hand again, and with a flick of his fingers the thunder leaps from his palm bright as molten gold. It arcs across the chamber, a single bolt that cracks the hush open like an egg. The air shivers with its passing, and for a heartbeat the world seems to hold its breath. When the light fades, the hush is not silence, it is something deeper. A stillness that hums in your bones, a promise that echoes in every breath. Zeus lowers his hand, his face calm but his eyes bright with something fierce and unspoken. Around him the gods stand silent, the flicker of the braziers painting their faces in light and shadow. And in that hush you feel it, the thunder's triumph. The understanding that this is not the end of the story, but the moment it begins to sing in every corner of the world. Remember that the Greeks believed thunder was the laughter of Zeus, the song of the sky given voice. But tonight you see that it is more than that. It is the promise of every secret that refuses to stay hidden, every truth that will not be silenced. Zeus steps forward, his voice quiet but steady. The thunder will find its way, he says. It will speak in the roar of the sky, in the hush of the earth. It will be heard and it will be remembered. You see it in the gods' faces, the flicker of awe, the quiet acceptance that even they cannot hold back what has already begun. The hush is no longer just a pause in the storm. It is the breath before the sky itself breaks open. You follow Zeus as he turns from the cavern, the gods falling into step behind him. The corridor is narrow, the flicker of torchlight painting the walls in gold and shadow. The hush follows you, the promise of thunder alive in every heartbeat. Far above you hear the first soft rumble of a storm building in the clouds, a sound that seems to echo in your bones. The hush of the world before the first drop of rain, the quiet that comes before the sky remembers how to roar. Because thunder is never just noise. It is the voice of the world, the promise of every secret that will not be silenced. And tonight you have seen it for yourself, alive in the glow of the mountain's heart waiting to sing. Zeus pauses at the end of the corridor, his hand resting on the cold marble of the archway. He turns to you, his gaze calm but his eyes bright. The thunder has spoken, he says softly. Now let us see what it will become. And you know as surely as the hush will break that this is only the beginning. The thunder's voice will not be silenced again and the world will listen. You follow Zeus through the marble archway, the corridor behind you, fading into memory as the hush of the mountain deepens. The path ahead twists and turns, lit by flickering braziers that cast long, restless shadows on the walls. Each step feels heavy, the weight of what has been unleashed pressing in around you like the breath of the storm itself. The air tastes of rain, and the sharp tang of lightning, and you can hear it, the faint, insistent murmur of thunder echoing in the stone, a promise that cannot be silenced. Zeus walks with measured steps, his shoulders squared beneath the weight of his choice. You see it in his face, the quiet resolve of a king who knows the storm is no longer his to command, but who will face it all the same. The corridor opens into a grand hall, its vaulted ceiling lost in shadow. The floor is a mosaic of black and white stone, a pattern of thunderbolts and olive branches that seems to pulse in the flickering light. Around the edges of the hall, statues of the gods stand in solemn watch, silent witnesses to the hush that has become the heartbeat of Olympus. A historical fact to ground you in ancient Greece temples and halls were not just places of worship. They were spaces where the divine and mortal worlds touched a threshold between what was seen and what was always waiting in the hush beyond. Tonight this hall is just such a place. Zeus steps forward, his voice low and calm. The thunder has spoken, he says his words, carrying in the hush like the first drop of rain. Now we must face what it has left behind. The gods gather around him, their faces lit by the flicker of the braziers. Ares stands with his hand on his sword, his eyes bright with something like hunger. Athena is calm, her grey eyes watchful, while Hermes shifts restlessly at the edge of the circle, the faintest smile flickering across his lips. Hera stands closest to Zeus, her gaze soft but unyielding. "You did what you must," she says quietly. The thunder was never meant to sleep forever. Zeus nods his jaw tight. "But now it is awake," he says, "and the world will feel it. A fringe tidbit for your dreams tonight, some whispered that the first thunder was the cry of the earth itself, a voice that echoed in the bones of every mountain, every breath of wind, and tonight that echo is alive in this hush." You watch as the gods move through the hall, their steps slow and deliberate. The statues seem to lean closer in the flickering light, their stone eyes bright with secrets. The hush holds it, all the promise of what's to come, the weight of what can no longer be hidden. Zeus pauses at the centre of the hall, his hand resting on the cold mosaic beneath his feet. "The world will tremble," he says softly, "but it will not break." Athena steps forward, her voice low but clear. "Historians still argue," she says, "whether thunder brings ruin or renewal. But it is always a beginning, and every beginning carries both." Zeus lifts his head, his eyes sweeping the circle of gods. "Then let this be our beginning," he says, "a promise that we will not run from what the thunder has revealed." The hush is deep as his words settle the air, charged with the memory of storms yet to come. You feel it in your bones, the quiet that is not silence, but the breath of something vast and alive. The gods nod, their faces calm, but their eyes bright. And you know that in this hush they hear it too, the song of the thunder, the voice that will not be caged again. Zeus turns to you, his expression calm, but his eyes alight with something fierce. "Remember this," he says quietly. "The thunder is not an end, it is a promise. And we will answer it whatever comes." You nod, the hush thick around you, and you feel the weight of his words settle into your bones like the first crackle of lightning in a summer sky. As the gods move to stand beside him, the hush deepens, a breath held in the darkness waiting for the next note of the storm. The braziers flicker their light, catching the glint of gold in the gods' eyes, and you know this is the moment that will be remembered in every whisper of wind, every roll of thunder that shakes the world. Because thunder does not fade, it finds its voice in every storm that follows, in every hush that waits for the roar. Zeus lifts his hand one last time, the glow of the thunder flickering faint and soft in his palm. The hush leans closer, the promise of what's to come humming in the stillness. And in that hush you feel it, the calm before the sky breaks open, the breath before the world remembers how to sing. The hush of the hall lingers like the last breath of a song, and you feel it settle into your bones, the quiet before the world exhales. Zeus lowers his hand, the faint flicker of thunder in his palm fading into the hush, and for a moment the world feels still. The gods stand around him, their faces lit by the glow of the braziers, their eyes bright with something older than fear, acceptance perhaps, or the knowledge that some things cannot be silenced. Zeus lifts his gaze, his voice low but steady. "The thunder is awake," he says, the words calm as the hush around you. "Let it sing." A murmur ripples through the gods, a breath of agreement, a promise whispered in the hush. Hera's eyes meet his calm and unwavering. Athena inclines her head, her gaze thoughtful. Ares' fingers drum once on the hilt of his sword, restless as the pulse of thunder itself. Hermes leans back against a pillar, a faint smile on his lips. Historians still argue, he says softly, whether thunder is the beginning or the end. But tonight it is both and neither. You see the truth in his eyes, the glint of mischief and knowing, because even he, the trickster messenger, understands what has been set in motion, a promise that will echo in every storm to come. Zeus steps forward, his footsteps soft on the mosaic floor. "The world will hear it," he says, his voice quiet but sure, "and we will hear it too." A historical fact to root you in the hush. The Greeks believed thunder was not just the voice of Zeus, it was the voice of the earth. The sky, the sea, all joined in a single unbroken song. A promise that life itself would always find its way back to the light. The hush deepens the air thick with the weight of what has been said. The braziers flicker their glow, catching the glint of ancient bronze and the quiet curve of stone lips in the statues that line the hall. They have seen empires rise and fall, storms break and pass, and tonight they watch as the thunder finds its voice again. Zeus turns to you, his eyes calm and clear. Remember, he says, thunder does not choose where it strikes, but it always speaks the truth. You nod the hush, warm around you, the promise of rain in every breath. The corridor behind you seems to lean closer, the flicker of torchlight a soft murmur in the dark. Because you know as surely as the mountain stands that the thunder's voice will be heard in every corner of the world. Ares steps forward, his voice low and almost gentle. The world will shake, he says, but it will not break. Athena's gaze is steady, her lips curved in the faintest smile. Thunder reveals the cracks that were always there, she says, but it also reveals the light. Hera lifts her head, her voice calm and clear. Let it come, she says. Let the thunder speak. The hush is absolute, every breath, a promise, every heartbeat, a quiet echo of the storm that waits. You see it in their eyes, the calm before the sky itself remembers how to roar. Zeus lifts his hand one last time, the hush gathering close around him. The glow of the thunder flickers once bright as a memory, soft as a promise. We will not fear it, he says. We will stand with it. And you know as you watch him in the flickering light that this is the moment the world will remember. The moment when thunder was no longer a secret but a song. A song that will echo in every crack of lightning, every whisper of rain, every hush of breath that waits for the storm. The hush deepens the air still and warm, and in that hush you hear it, the soft, steady pulse of thunder in the earth itself, the heartbeat of a promise that will not be silenced. Because thunder does not sleep, it waits, it watches, and when it speaks, it sings. The hush holds you close, the promise of the storm warm in your chest. You breathe it in slow and steady, and you know that the story is not over, it has only just begun. And now as the hush of Olympus fades into the hush of your own room, let your breath slow, let your thoughts settle. Feel the softness of the air around you, the warmth of your blanket, the quiet rhythm of your pulse. You've walked with the gods tonight, heard the promise of the thunder and the hush that comes before the storm. Let that promise rest in your bones, a quiet hum that soothes the edges of your thoughts. The world outside your window is calm now, the sky soft and dark. Let it hold you like the hush of the mountain, gentle and unbroken. Feel the weight of every breath, the warmth of every heartbeat, and know that you are safe here. The thunder may sing, the storm may call, but in this hush you are held. Close your eyes if they're not already closed. Let the hush wrap around you like a lullaby, the softest echo of rain, the faintest promise of dawn. Let every breath be a reminder that the story is yours to hold, that the thunder's song is a song of life, not of fear. And as sleep comes soft, slow and sure, carry that song with you. Let it weave through your dreams, a silver thread of quiet strength and gentle promise. Because in the end every hush holds a heartbeat, every storm a breath of life. Rest now, dream softly, the thunder will watch over you until the morning comes.